Now, Cincinnati Connection, connecting you to your community.
Well, thanks so much for joining us this morning, folks. I'm your host, Sharice Gibson. Welcome to Cincinnati Connection. So this week, Cincinnati played host to the International Association of Official Human Rights Agencies 69th Annual Conference, a long title there. Now, the organization is the oldest professional civil rights organization for civil rights practitioners in the nation. So as you can imagine, there were a lot of legends in the room. We saw the likes of not only local leaders, but national leaders as well, including Dr. Bernice King, Tim Wise, Tamika Mallory, Cleveland Browns owner Dee Haslam, Iris Rowley, so many more. And another leader we have in studio with us this morning is Paul Booth. We were able to grab him out of there for a little bit. He's the division manager of the Office of Human Relations for the city of Cincinnati and former councilman in studio with us this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Sharice, thank you. Good to be with you always.
I'm glad that you were able to get about 5 minutes away from the conference because it's still going on as we speak.
It is going on until Thursday. So happy to be here.
Yeah, well, this year's conference, it shines a spotlight on several issues that I would like to say not are new issues, but that have come back to the forefront because obviously there are issues that have never been settled right here in America. We're talking about issues of sexual harassment in the workplace, mental health, immigration, human rights, civil rights as well. It runs the gamut even to small business, issues with small business lending and gun violence in America. So tell us this, how is this conference helping those who attend make those good decisions regarding human rights and civil rights?
Yes. So the purpose of the conference is to train and equip those that are attending. We probably have around 150 people from across the country, human rights, human relations professionals, and activists. You name the titles and the subjects that they're dealing with during their breakout sessions. So hopefully what we do is give them information, give them tools, give them knowledge to take back to their cities to create programs where they can deal with the problems of the day. The problems are major. They haven't changed. They haven't gone away. If anything, some of them may have escalated, but they are things that all cities, I don't care where you go in America, are experiencing. So that's why it's necessary to have human relations and human rights agencies to be able to tackle these issues across the country.
But would you say across the board, though, the main topic here is about bridging the racial divide?
It really is. It really is. And as you mentioned, we were privileged last evening to partner with the King Center and the Procter & Gamble Company to present a dialogue that deals with bridging the racial divide. You had individuals from all walks of life who were sitting down talking, who were sitting down discussing. And that is that's really the issue with race. If we don't talk about it, first of all, it's never going to go away. Yeah. If we don't sit down and talk about it and try to express our differences, then it will remain the status quo.
Now, one of the interesting speakers that you have here that I found very interesting, you have Robert W. Lee, the Reverend Robert W. Lee,
yes,
is joining you guys this week. Now, the thing is, if that name sounds familiar to you all, yes, that is he is related to Robert E. Lee.
He is.
Yes, yeah, related to Robert E. Lee, but he has spoken out, though, against white supremacy. So how do we expect this conversation to go? What is it that he's bringing to the table, especially when we have the conversations about monuments that honor people like his relative, Robert E. Lee? I know I'm from New Orleans, so Robert E. Lee Circle, that monument was one of the first to come down in the city of New Orleans. How is he expected to add to that conversation?
You know, he's going to add significantly to the conversation because he grew up in a family, as you have mentioned. He's a descendant of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, that everyone is familiar with. But the discussion and where he is today could have been totally different because he was raised differently.
Yes.
But he has recently taken a strong stand against racism. He has also taken a stand against these statues, many of them which his Robert E. Lee is in those statues, so he supports taking them down. So he's about breaking down barriers, doing everything he can to create the racial divide. In fact, because of his stand, he left his church where he was pastor and where he was comfortable. because of this stand. They were going to ask him to leave, but he left voluntarily. So he is out now devoting himself full-time to eliminating and eradicating racism.
So you would sort of look at him as an ally here.
Absolutely. He's definitely an ally, and he's someone that can convert others because he's been there, he understands about it, and he's dedicated to it.
Okay, so what is the conversation that he's expected to add on? Is he doing a panel or?
No, he is the sole speaker that we
Yes.
have at our event tonight. It's not open to the public, but he will again be able to talk and engage in dialogue those persons who are part of the conference, tell him about his walk, his life, and what he's done and what he plans to do going forward.
But when it seems like when it comes to race in America, this is a conversation that is not going to go away. We can advance how to fix the issue, but it's a constant conversation. So this is what, the 69th year?
Yes.
The 69th year that
yes.
you are holding this conference. So 69 years into this conference, this conversation continues. Where are you seeing any advancement so far?
You know, we made a lot of advancements, and of course, yesterday we celebrated the 55th anniversary of the March on Washington. This year is also the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. While we have made gains, there's still many challenges. There are challenges on different fronts that they were not dealing with in the days of civil rights. But I think the real message is that the activism should not change. The activism is still needed. The marches are still needed. The dialogue is still needed, and change is still needed, and change agents are still needed.
And we're talking about the change in America, but we have our own issues right here in Cincinnati. I know that Iris Rowley, a heavy activist that's in the community, has come on to talk about the collaborative agreement. This is a conversation that is sort of dwindled down a little bit, but she's always tried to racket up that conversation as far as how community activists need to be more and heavily involved with the collaborative. What about the issues that we're facing here in Cincinnati? Have we touched on that?
We have touched. In fact, Iris was one of our presenters today. And when we look at what's happening in our city, fortunately, it is different from the past, let's say 60s and going forward, that we do have leadership in place that is at least sensitive. Now, they may not always do what we want them to do, but they are at least sensitive to the needs and sensitive to the issues that our community is facing. So it's good to have Iris Rowley, members of the community, and the Black United Front in place to prick our conscience, and to get us to really examine these issues so that they are not swept under the rug, and to really call our leaders out. And you know, I'm one of the leaders. I don't mind being called out when I need to be called out. But if we don't call them out again, things remain the same.
Well, hopefully we see more change in the community rather than things remaining stagnant.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
So good to be with you.
Thank
you for your time, and thank you for your support.
All right. We have more Cincinnati Connection coming up in studio this morning with Bonnie Jean Feldkamp. She is talking about her viral article on teachers and guns in the classroom. All right, welcome back to Cincinnati Connection. Our show continues this morning with a conversation on guns in America, more specifically guns in our classrooms. So I want to read an excerpt from an article posted on USA Today Network. That article titled, "I am a parent and gun owner who thinks schools should spend on education, not armed defense." So excerpt from that article says that parents are children are frightened and looking for solutions. Gun violence in schools is a terrifying reality. Parents feel equally outraged and helpless. Lawmakers fold their hands as if they are tied and offer up thoughts and prayers. Big fixes take time and votes and process, so parents take action the only way they know how, which is to protect their own. So joining me in studio this morning is the woman behind that article, Bonnie Jean Feldkamp, a member of the Cincinnati Enquirer's Education and Family Life Roundtable. She joins us to expand her thoughts, add on to this conversation. Another interesting part of your article, Bonnie, that you said is sending your child to school shouldn't feel like you're sending them to a war zone. No. And do you feel like that's where a lot of parents are feeling this morning?
I think they are. I think they're scared. We now have bulletproof backpacks that are for sale, and the sales are rising. And I think that with the rise of the internet and social media and access to all of these videos, these audios, these details, people are scared.
Yeah.
And I think they need to take a deep breath.
And when people are scared, you see it even on, as a parent, and you're seeing it in Congress where these fear tactics are now leading to people making just kind of what I would consider, just throwing my opinion in on here, unwise decisions. Now, one of the biggest questions that they have right now is whether we need to add more guns to schools, which I never thought that we would get to the point where that was even a conversation.
Right. Well, we're seeing a little bit here locally because we've seen metal detectors go into schools over the summer. And we keep adding armor and padding and bulletproof measures and all of this. And I really think that it's distracting from the real issue.
Yeah.
And the issue is what are we going to do about making sure guns don't get into the wrong hands?
Yeah.
I think that's the real issue. And by arming schools and teachers and defending them as if it is a military zone, it's putting your money in the wrong place.
Now, you're saying to spend more money on education. Now, are we talking about the education to the teachers, mental health education?
I think all of it, and mental health is absolutely. Wouldn't it have been lovely if instead of putting metal detectors in our schools, we would have added more to the counselors to those schools to help maybe reach those at-risk kids. A lot of our school counselors, they counsel for college. We need more mental health experts in the schools that are specifically for the well-being of the children while they're there and not necessarily in their future.
So you, as you mentioned as in the title of this article, you are a gun owner.
I am. Yes.
And you are a mother.
My husband is, yeah.
and you are a mother.
I am.
And not only that, a mother to a daughter who has been involved in a school shooting.
That's correct.
So
Yes.
do you see this, all of the different legislation we have, the conversations we're having, do you feel like this is an attack on gun rights or gun owners?
No, I don't, because I think that as gun owners, we need to take responsibility, just like we take responsibility for a motor vehicle. We're licensed, we're insured, we know that there are consequences. If we're a drunk driver, we get our license taken away. I think that you need to be licensed and insured to be a gun owner and also be held accountable if there's misuse of that weapon.
So what are some of the solutions that you believe that we have? I know that we need to give more money towards education, but I mean, doesn't it go a little bit deeper than that as far as more protection for kids in school?
Yes, protection, absolutely, but I think we need to scale back because I think I've said on your show before, if protection is a teacher with a gun, then so many things have gone wrong before that child has even walked through the door. And if you look at the data, school shootings have actually gone down. More kids get shot outside of school than they do inside of school. We just have more access to the fearful footage. And also, if you look at the data, it's not necessarily guaranteed that putting a metal detector is going to protect against a shooting, but absolutely it raises the perception of risk. And you're talking about, we already have higher depression and anxiety in schools. Let's walk into a school that's fully armed. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
That's terrifying. It's intimidating.
All right. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely.
I'm going to post the link to Bonnie's article on our website, fox19now.com, and of course on my YouTube page as well, so you can see that interview just in case you missed it. So keep it here. We have more Cincinnati Connection coming up. All right, welcome back, folks. She has a vision to live in a world where those who have disabilities are valued equally and families who are faced with disabilities are supported, encouraged, and empowered. So joining us this morning is Tammy Westmoreland. She's with Cute Cosmetics. It's cute with a Q, and we'll get into that in a second, explaining exactly what she means here with Tammy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, what I really do love about what you're doing is you're basically using your cosmetics for a cause.
Yes.
This all goes back to activism when it comes to disabilities, when it comes to spreading awareness, and this is something very personal to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes, I had a son that passed away 7 years ago who was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Of course, I was a teen mom. I had him at the age of 15. He passed at the age of 15. So this is my way of being the voice that he never had, to be able to raise awareness about cerebral palsy, as well as be able to give back to families that are affected by cerebral palsy. I'm just trying to help those who are in the same situation that I was in, who didn't have the support, who didn't have the resources. It takes a lot to take care of a child that has a disability, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So I want to be able to let them know that they're not alone. It's also my husband also had a son that passed away of cerebral palsy. We didn't know each other, and so this is just the bond that we have and a way to keep our kids' memories alive and just spread awareness about it, because a lot of people don't know and not familiar with cerebral palsy and what it is.
As far as when it comes to someone having a child with this disability, what have you learned?
That it takes a lot of support, and a lot of support is not out there. There are not a lot of organizations that they might give financially, but I more so want to help the parents mentally and emotionally. So that's what my nonprofit, Their Voice, is all about, being able to help the families and let them know you're not alone, because you do feel alone, and especially if you don't have that family or that friend who is going through the same thing you're going through, you have no one to talk to. And so you do feel trapped and you do feel alone. And with being able to have now a man that I know who went through it, he's able to use his voice for the men and let them know, like, hey, you're not alone as well.
So tell me this, how did this lead to your cosmetics line?
So 11 months after my son passed away, I had a daughter. And so she was basically what gave me back life and helped me realize that I need to do more in the world. So she was 1 year old, like a typical little girl, and she loved lip gloss. And she always walked around saying, "Mommy, you're cute. That's cute." She complimented everyone. And so one day I asked my sister, I said, how about we do a cosmetic line? I really wanted to do a little girl's lip gloss line.
Yeah.
And I said, we can change the cute from a C to a Q. And we came up with Cute Cosmetics. And then Cincy Chic did an article on me, and we ended up the tagline, "Cute for a Cause," stuck.
Yeah.
Because it's all about being cute for a cause. We donate a percentage of our proceeds back to cerebral palsy. We've donated a lot of our proceeds back to Stepping Stones here in Ohio. We were able to donate this past week in LA to Inclusion Clubhouse. Linda Hall's the founder. And then September, we'll be doing an event in Atlanta, and I have partnered up with Libra Hicks. She's the founder of Our Children's Story, who also has a son with cerebral palsy and autism. So we will be donating back to them.
So when it comes to that, you not only have the cosmetic line, you have been traveling, obviously, spreading the message of awareness, but you also have your nonprofit organization as well.
As well as a book.
As well, as well as the book. What's going on with that?
So I have a book that came out in March called Life Before and After Cerebral Palsy, We Are Their Voices. So it's me talking about my journey of being a mom with a kid with a disability, the trials and tribulations I went through, and basically how I'm now living life after death. I also included my husband's story. I have a cousin who had a son that passed away, so she has her story in the book. And I also wanted to be able to touch on different aspects from my mom, from my sister, from a friend, because sometimes family members and friends don't know what to say or how to say how to react to what you're going through. So I wanted to include them, and they have their stories in there as well.
I can say I feel like I can relate to that, because when we talk about families or friends that have children with disabilities, you don't know how can I help? Exactly. Like, you don't know how to help, you don't know what to do, what can you offer, and outside of saying, well, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, I feel like you can take it a step further. What help did you and your husband receive? What is it that we can do? What is it that families can do and friends can do to assist in this process?
Be there, ask for help, support. What can I do?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just come over and sit with me, because I'm not a big girl and my son was a big guy. So therefore, trying to pick him up and pick his wheelchair up and transfer him, because I didn't have a van lifter. A lot of these parents and families need lifters to be able to transport their kids. I didn't have that. So maybe coming over to sit for a half an hour so I can maybe run to the grocery store, or maybe go to the grocery store for me. Just things like that people just don't think about, that is just every day. It's hard. Every day is something it's difficult to try to do something every day. And then I had another son, so it's like me trying to be a mommy to two kids, one that can't do anything for himself, and the other one who's running around and want to get out and do more. So it's like just some assistance and just even support. Hey, let's maybe do family dinners here versus having it somewhere else. Therefore, you're including us and not make me feel like or obligated that I either going to try to struggle and do this, or just stay home and be more comfortable with my son and tend to him that way. So just things like that definitely helps. Will definitely help.
And do you detail that in the book as far as maybe help guide families?
I do. I talk about things that I went through and struggles, and what kind of led to depression for me mentally, because again, dealing with it, you do question and ask why. Why is this happening to me? Why can't my son walk? Why can't I hear my son's voice? Why can't he say mommy? So mentally and emotionally sometimes it's more hard than anything else. So things like that I talk about in my book. And of course, through my nonprofit, I'm gonna be able to do more. Like just recently with my fundraiser, It's like I said, it's small things. I'm able to donate to a family in Wisconsin, just diapers, baby wipes,
Yeah.
just baby wipes. Like, people don't think about that. Little things like that, you can help donate to the cause.
So of course, we want our viewers to be able to find you and help contribute and, of course, learn more about your story in case they can definitely relate. How is it that they can get in touch with you and get their hands on your book?
Okay, my book, of course, is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. You can do iTunes, Google Play. You can go to any bookstore and request it if it's not there. I am on social media, of course, like everyone. So you can go to Instagram under Cute with a Q, Cosmetics 1, on Facebook, Cute Cosmetics, and on Snapchat, Cute Cosmetics 1.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
this
for having
morning.
me. I appreciate
And thank you
it.
for being brave enough just to share your story.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back in a sec. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.